How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Talk4 Podcast. So excited to have you here today and show you this fantastic episode. Just want to say quickly that episodes like this one and all the ones before and the ones in future are made possible by people who subscribe. Hopefully, just like you. I'm going to ask you today, if you can, leave a subscribe, leave a follow, leave a rating, leave a like or a comment, and just support the show in the little ways that you can like that. It makes a huge difference on my end. And quickly, just want to plug as well. I've taken 30 of the best episodes of this podcast and turned them into a fantastic book that goes into 150 secrets to greatness. Each one of those 30 episodes gets crunched down into 5 of the best key takeaways from the whole talk and turns them into a fantastic book. Highly recommend you check it out. Please support the show by grabbing a copy, either a paperback or an ebook. And I can't wait to show you guys this one today. So guys, without further ado, let's get over to the episode. How's it going, guys? Welcome to episode 162 of Talk4, the quickfire podcast where we ask 4 great questions to unique and interesting people. Behind the mic today is your host, Skupien. That's me. And let me introduce an incredible guest for today, Dr. Robb Kelly, who's going to be answering our questions today. So, Dr. Kelly, most importantly, how are you today? Welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here. This is going to be a really good talk. And as we said just before we got on here, it's going to be the best episode ever.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on. Really thinking this is going to be it today. End with a great podcast today. So that's what we're going to do.
That's the plan. Okay, well, let's get into it. So I would love to take you through the kind of show tradition, elevator pitch, really. Just basically, in a nutshell, who you are, what you do, and just kind of like a real quick snapshot into the life of you. And then we're going to dig into it on the big scale. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. But yeah, let's start there. So you got your minute? Fire away.
My name is Dr. Robb Kelly. I'm over in San Antonio, Texas. As you can tell by the accent, I'm from Manchester, England. And before you ask, I was blue, then now I'm red because I was Manchester United's doctor for 3 years. Okay, let's get that out of the way. So in San Antonio, we deal with addiction, alcoholism, childhood trauma, depression, anxiety, PTSD, early research into Alzheimer's and dementia. So anything to do with psych, we address. I'm a few years in now with 11,000 patients, and we have a 98% success rate, which was unheard of in the industry. I myself was an alcoholic. I lost everything, including children, houses, medical license in England, and became homeless. While I was homeless, I died twice on the street. And now, 30 years on, I'm here working with people. I love what I do because I do what I love. I'm pretty well known in America, over this side of the pond, and just loving life. It's amazing. I married a Texas girl, so she keeps me in line. We have 2 English bulldogs. I have an English car. She has an English car, and we have a cat, and we're just as happy as we can be.
That is absolutely fantastic. I'm thrilled for you, and I'd love to just lead into this by saying that on this show, I've had the privilege of speaking to a lot of people who've been through a lot of different things. I've spoken to people who've been through alcoholism, who've essentially died, literally died in combat as well, then kind of came back to life, people who've lost limbs, and just stories of going from X to where they are now and seeing these progressions, hearing the stories is incredibly inspiring. And I just think that it's also incredibly inspiring that you went through that and now you are where you are helping people. And because that's literally like the full circle journey, and it's turned something so negative into a real positive. So let's go all the way to the back end of this thing then. So your journey from being a PhD graduate at Oxford to living on the streets of Manchester is obviously, like I said, incredibly inspiring. So can you just kind of take us through the pivotal moment when you realized it was your thinking, not the alcohol, that was the root of your addiction, and anything that might lay the groundwork for kind of backstory into how it all started, and we'll go from there.
So I took my first drink at the age of 9 years old. I was born into a musical family, so my auntie and uncle were musicians, and they had a band together, a duo. I joined them at the age of 9 and made it a trio. And Liverpool Irish Centre. I love saying that because Americans go, what? And I was speaking to some guys in England. The first half, we had 2 20-minute spots there. I froze because there was so many people in there. And we came off during the interval, and my uncle gave me a beer. And I drank the beer down in one, and that changed my life right there and then. I continued working in bands, become a session musician, I went through college, come out again, went in the police force. Most of our guys in the lodge were police officers. But yeah, I mean, it gets out of control. And I wasn't happy to be told, just stop drinking because of your children. I knew there was something more to this because I was quite successful with the telecom thing that we built. By the end of the day, it took everything from me and viciously. And I was abandoned on the streets of Manchester. One of the things we're big on here is let's say alcoholism, but it goes for everything. Alcoholics are born, drug addicts are made. Alcoholism is a vicious disease that centers in the brain. So alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism. And by the way, guys, I write for Harvard. I write, I've got books. I do a lot of TV on this. I lecture to universities and medical students. I'm outside a liquor store off license about 5:30 in the morning. It's snowing in Manchester. I have a string vest, pair of shorts, flip-flops, and I'm sweating profusely. This tells me that if I don't get alcohol or hospital in the next 30, 40 minutes, I'm probably going to die. The guy opens it, Pakistani guy, beautiful guy. He opens it early. He was a news agent. I love saying that because everyone else over there goes, what? So he can't sell alcohol till 10, but 5:30 in the morning he lets me in. I'm not too sure what happened because I've been doing this for like years with the same guy. I have a £10 in my hand. I'm shaking so much and I can't talk. My head's banging. I'm sweating. And I put my £10 on the counter. And as he took it, he put the bottle on the counter. And for whatever reason, this was my reaction. Headache stopped, sweat stopped, shaking stopped, mood changed instantly. It's like I've won the lottery. And I remember looking at him, looking back at the bottle and going, holy shit, it's not the alcohol. So that was the turning point to think, well, if it's not the drinking, it must be the thinking. And that's when I got off the streets. That's what I viciously, aggressively went into, is trying to change the world, that an alcoholic is not somebody who drinks too much alcohol. It's hereditary, passed down from generation. It skips generations, but it's there. We've traced it back to imprinted genes in fetus levels. So yeah, that was the big move for me. Is like I kept saying, it's not about the alcohol, and people were like, "What do you mean? It's not about the alcohol? It's alcoholism." I said, yeah, I'm not having it, and we were proven right after all these years.
Yeah. Something we've been quite passionate about talking about on the show before with various guests who've been through various different things is actually something called generational trauma, which I'm sure you know loads about. I'm curious, could you maybe just tell me a little bit more about maybe the family life growing up, what the parents were like, grandparents? Because I'm curious, you say that it's about the thinking, not the alcohol. So I'm wondering if alcohol was something that was passed down through your family, it's just something kind of part of the culture, or was it actually generational trauma that found its way down and the alcohol was just a symptom of that? What are your thoughts there?
Well, it's a predisposition, alcoholism. We're allergic to the ethanol, the alcohol, and three parts of the brain differ. The hypothalamus, the basal ganglia, and the amygdala differ in the alcoholic. Not with a drug addict, it's the addictive personality. My life was, I lived on the council estates, and we lived in a very notorious council estate called the Racecourse. Most joked it was like Strange Ways, which is a prison. It was their waiting room. So yeah, it was very rough. I learned to fight at an early age because you either fight or you get eaten by these guys around you. So all the love in the world in the house, but not money. So I was the guy on the school trip, 3 miles down the road to a park to camp for 3 days. I mean, I don't know how much it was cost. Let's say it was like 10, 20 pence. My parents couldn't afford that, they told me. So I'd be the guy waving them off, waving the bus, me and this other kid waving the bus as the bus drove away. My life was full of stuff like that where we couldn't afford stuff. Never met my grandparents, but my grandpa, unbelievable guy. He was a musician. He would often tell my mom to tell me certain stuff. It was amazing. He was the one, probably back in, I don't know, the 50s or something, was telling my mom that one day you can choose a movie from your own living room and on a TV. And everybody laughed at him. And he was years ahead of his time. So mom used to always tell me stuff. really clever stuff and smart stuff that he said, don't forget to tell your first child this, and it's crazy. So I lived by a lot of his principles, and one of them was, we haven't got time. I'm really big on that. We don't have to, we think we have time as human beings, but we don't have time. Time's running out every single second of the day. If you look at how old I am now, 64, and most people live to 75, just saying, then I have 11 more birthdays left on this earth. And when you look at it like that, you realize that time is so precious. And that's one of the things my mum taught me. My mum cleaned houses for a living, and my dad worked for the gas board. He was in the roads, big roads up for big pipes. So again, loving family. We didn't have much, but we were a tight-knit family. We sat down for dinner or tea every single night at 6 p.m. No matter what we were doing, we all turned. And it was a great environment, and when you're growing up, you don't know you're poor. It's one of the crazy things. Lots of love and laughs, and you get to go here and maybe not there. And, we got one holiday a year to Butlins, that kind of stuff. But yeah, when we look at trauma itself, we call it childhood trauma. It's the gateway drug. Everybody has childhood trauma. Alcoholics, addicts, depressed people, that's a measurement passed down, are more sensitive to a trauma. And that's the difference. If you're suffering from any psych that we talk about today, going to a normal therapist who hasn't gone through it do not understand how we hear things differently. So we're very sensitive. Me and my brothers stood on the kitchen table one day, true story, about 8, 9, 10 years old. My mother walks in and she says to both of us, "Get down off that table, you stupid idiots, get down." My brother jumps down and I freeze. Why do I freeze? This is what I've learned. "Get down off that table, you stupid idiot." I can't move. I'm in fear. So that always intrigued me growing up. What was that about? And then the more studies we do into the neuroscience today, the more we understand it.
Right. So if we go from 9 years old forwards from there, so what happened then? So you had that first drink. Then what happened? I know my own story of alcohol, 16, a life of professional sport. I just kept me completely away from anything up until 16 years old, and kind of had a bet almost, if we win this tournament, then this guy who was my doubles partner is going to take me out, kind of a thing. And hey, we won. Great result. Had the best night ever that night. And I wish, from the bottom of my heart, I can honestly say, I wish I'd never had that first one. I wish that I'd always just stayed completely out of it. So, what's your story after that? We're obviously, you don't just have, a sip of a beer to 9-year-old down the beer and then that's it, so what happened after that? How did it all progress?
So school was okay. Music was my deal. I wasn't really good at most things. I was average and some above average, but music, I could play any instrument. Like the bagpipes, somebody walked in with the bagpipes one day at school and said, "Can you play this?" trying to show me off. And I said, "Give me 10 minutes." In 10 minutes, I could play. It's just what I do. Now, can I wire a plug or, do paint? No, I can't. Not like my brother. I remember going to my brother's house one day and he's like, "I don't know how you can play a musical instrument, like any musical instrument." And I'm like, "I don't understand why you can't." But then he said, "Well, I'm building a patio at the back of the house." I'm like, "Oh, who's doing it?" He said, "I'm doing it." I have no idea. I wouldn't know where to start. So we all have this individual things. But I went through school, drinking weekends when I was in the band, set up a band. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we would play. About 15, 16, 17 is when we kind of formed our own band, and didn't think anything of it. All I knew that I was the richest kid in our school, because whatever it was back then, $5 or £5, we'd get paid. And it was great. I went through school, I did okay. And then this is what happened to me. I'm an average kid living on the council estates. Not really good in. Anyway, a friend of mine, his father was high up in some banking system. And my friend came and said, "My dad wants to speak to you." And I'm like, "Holy shit, I wonder what I've done." So we went in. His dad sits me down, and I'm about 15, 16, I don't know. Anyway, he says, "I believe you're a musician." And I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "Do you play the organ?" I said, "Yeah, I can play anything." "Can you read music?" "Yep, no problems at all." So he explains to me that his lodge in town, I think it was Market Street, not sure, had this 150th anniversary or something, and they were all older people over 60s, and their organist had passed away like 3 days before, and they were panicking. They had like 2 days, and they couldn't find an organist. So he said, "Would you come in and play the organ for us?" And I was, "Yeah, we'll pay you." No, I don't. It's fine. But what happened is they put it to the guys, and I had to be a Freemason before I could walk into the lodge itself, walk into the room. So I became an outer guard and an inner guard within like 7 hours. And then I was allowed in to play the organ. That there changed my life. With the contacts I had, I got into Oxford University because of the contacts I had. It was not on my own education or anything like that. I always remember sitting down for dinner the first time, everybody, full uniform, and there was like 7 forks and like 8 knives and 3 spoons, and I had no idea what that was. So that's where the imposter syndrome came from. I'm following him around for a long time. So it was all who I knew. And the Freemasons, for me, became a very powerful source. I got into the police force because of them. I did so many things because of them. And then, before I knew what day it was, I got fired from the police force. And, it kind of psychologically started going downhill, but I never ever thought I was an alcoholic. I mean, that would be crazy. And that's how life was. It was just the trauma that we know today is not the trauma that the 60s, 70s, 80s textbook talks about. They talk about the car crashes, the plane, the divorce. It goes way deeper than that. And it scars and it sits in the subconscious brain and it destroys your life. So if you can't give a job, you divorce 3 times, all this stuff, you can't get a break. It's all childhood trauma, but not the childhood trauma that you're told from normal therapists. It's very deep. And if you don't go there and uncover, discover, discard of that family trauma, generational trauma, then you'll never live to your full potential. And I'm all about people living to the full potential. Most people walk around about 45 to 50% of their capability and capacity. That's it. And I say that with millions of people over here that I've, that's watched me and read and stuff like that. It's like, we don't. We specialize in taking people from 55% to 100%, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an alcoholic, depression, PTSD. We believe that we only use part of the brain, and the food we eat today in America is terrible. And you're on a mental decline with the food that we take. 90% is plastic and GMO and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I was just enjoying life. I was kind of, when I got married, I was drinking most days, but never a problem. And that's how I went through. It was pretty cool. But when I look back, when it all went wrong for me, and I really came off the streets and really looked at myself and got help, proper help of this guy called John, I saw the trauma for what it was. And when you see the trauma here that correlates directly to here, you realize why your life is not as good as it should be, because it's not cleared up this, and it's mind-blowing.
Let's get into it then. So when did it go really bad? So it sounds like there was a really big ditch along the way there, and that was the turning point. I know obviously you said you had that experience where you're in the off license, or the news agency said, and you then had that kind of light bulb moment, I guess, but that certainly isn't it. It's not like you can just go, right, that's it, and then it's all fixed, right? So how did that progress out of there then? So how did you kind of go towards fixing it? Was it a cold turkey? Was it a slow fix? How did you implement what you'd found that day in that experience to actually shape your recovery process? Because as you say, the problem is not our drinking, it is our thinking. So just go a little bit more in depth about what that really means and how that does actually shape the recovery philosophy with it.
Well, I literally couldn't. People brandish around alcoholism. Oh, Jimmy around the corner, he drinks a bottle of vodka. He's an alcoholic. What we must understand that alcoholism is the only self-diagnosed illness in the world. 10 DWIs do not make you an alcoholic, or warning from the doctor. It's an internal disease passed down from generation to generation. So I knew I was up to something or onto something. When the shop thing happened with the vodka, it didn't stop me drinking, and I was still on the streets for a good 6 or 7 months after that occasion, but it always stuck in my mind. So can't stop, lost everything, died twice on the streets. They brought me back to life. I hated, strong word, then paramedics for that, bringing me back to life. And I just wanted to die. That's where I was. 7 suicide attempts, 2 works brought me back. I'm surviving at best. I'm drinking during the day, passing out at nighttime, waking up at 2 o'clock, trying to find alcohol. It was just a mess. I got beaten towards the end of homeless because I used to be a bodybuilder and a fighter. Well, of course, you just drink and don't eat on the street, then the weight drops, and I went down to some ridiculous, like 10 stone. So yeah, it was horrible. So I'm walking in the back ends of Manchester, and again, I love doing English programs. It's where the factories and the warehouses are, office blocks. I mean, there's no person in sight at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning. It's pouring down with rain, and I'm tormented by everything that's happened. When they took my children off me, ages 1 and 3, it ripped my heart out, and the way it was done ripped my heart out. So I dropped down to my hands and knees, and I started to cry like a baby. Now, I wasn't crying because I'd lost my children, house, money, wife. I was crying because the first time in my life I realized I couldn't stop drinking. As an atheist, I looked up to the sky, and I still don't know why, and I said out loud, if there is a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. That's all I said. Not a spiritual guy, not a religious guy. My priest molested me, so I was way far from religion. But about 30 seconds later, a guy walked around the corner. His name was Derek. Now, Derek told me that he'd missed his last bus home from Bible study, and he'd been walking at least an hour. He took a shortcut to his house that he'd never taken before, and he came upon me. And he said, can I help you? Do you need help? And I went on to tell him that I'm an alcoholic, I'm dying. So he picked me up and he took me back to his house. Now, I shaved for the first time in 13 months. I bathed for the first time in 12 months. I had proper food. He gave me close to where it was unbelievable. And he said to me, Rob, you can stay here for as long as you like, but you've got to come to these AA meetings with me. And I said, Derek, I can't go there. I've been there. They're horrible. You know, Rob, you've got to come. That's the condition. Otherwise, you can't stay in this house. I cannot have you drunk in this house. So that was the deal. So I went, next day we went to the meeting, and I sat there listening to the war stories, and sat in a circle, and opposite me around 12 o'clock, this guy said, my name's John, and I'm a recovered alcoholic. And I turned to Derek and went, what did he just say? Did he say recovered? And Derek went, yeah, isn't that weird? And it made sense. He made sense to me, and he talked from the book, and he talked a little about God. And I was so impressed that after his 5-minute share, after the meeting, I went over and I said, hey, John, my name's Rob. Will you sponsor me? And he said, no, I can't sponsor you, but I will be your spiritual advisor for 12 weeks. During that 12 weeks, I walked to his house. I left Derek at 6. I got there for 7. I spent exactly 60 minutes with him, and I walked back and got home for 9. I did this for 12 weeks, guys. Just remember this. Now, strange things happened that I didn't know, but I realized later. When I would go to his apartment block, he said, you cannot come upstairs until 7 o'clock. Don't arrive at 10 to, 5 to, 3 minutes. So I used to walk up at dead on 7. We'd do it. We'd spend time together, we'd talk. And then at 1 minute to 8, he'd walk me to the door. He'd give me a hug and he'd bid me good night. And I walked out for 8. That was a stipulation. For 12 weeks, guys, stick with me here. My 12th night there, I felt different. I knew I'd been working with people with alcoholism. They were starting to get better. And on my last night there, he took me to the door and he said, Rob, your life's going to change from tomorrow. You've been chosen to do this. The suffering has all been a plan of this. And I'm like, John, I think you're amazing, but I'm in the spare bedroom or basement of Derek's house on a blow-up mattress. Nobody knows I'm there. I don't leave the house. How's my life going to change? And he smiled at me and closed the door behind me. I walked home. I got into bed. I got next morning. Me and Derek had coffee, and then he left for work, and I tidied the house. That was my job. Lunchtime, he came home. He never comes on lunchtime, and he said, "Rob, the guy who sweeps the floor, the factory floor, has just resigned. You want a part-time job?" Oh my God, yes. Which later turned into a full-time job later that week. So when I got my first pay packet, 2 weeks later or something, it was cash stapled to an envelope. I remember that. I ran to the petrol station, gas station, and I bought John a little teddy bear, and I got a card, and I said to him, "Thank you, John, for introducing me to God, because he took the compulsion to drink away." That's exactly what I wrote, and I'm heading back to his house. And I'm so excited to get there to tell him that things are changing and things are amazing, and he was right all along. And when I got there, the net curtains seemed a bit dustier than they were, but it's been 2 weeks. So I started knocking on the door. I was knocking for that long or that loud, I don't know why, but the right-hand lady came out in her apartment, and she said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, where's John? Is he like, has he moved out or something?" And she said, "John who?" And I said, "The guy, your neighbor." "Oh, I'm on night shift. I don't see anybody." So, went round to the left-hand side, knocked on the door a little harder than I should. The big guy came to the door and said, "What do you want?" "Can you tell me where John is?" "John who?" "John, your neighbor." He went on to tell me that that place was derelict. And if I was to walk through that door, I would fall 3 flights down and kill myself. And I knew that was the house. He said there used to be tape on it. I don't know where the tape's gone, so you cannot. It's derelict. You can't go in it. So I'm thinking these guys are crazy. So the next night I go back to the meeting where I'd met him months ago. And as I walked in, the chair guy said, "Rob, oh my God." He comes over, gives me a hug. And I'm like, thank God for that. I thought I was going crazy. Does John still come in? And he said, "John who?" And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I said, "John, over in the corner, talking about being a sponsor, spiritual advisor, near the coffee machine." And he said, "Rob, we thought you were praying. You were speaking to yourself. Never found that." And when I started to get wealthy, I put the best private detective agency in Manchester onto them, and they could never find me. And what I do, and why we have such a fantastic success rate, is because of the stuff he taught me. So that's how I got off the streets. I moved into my own little apartment, with the council, got me a different apartment, and I started to live life. And it was unbelievable. My life started to pick up. And then before your time, but we've got chat rooms, Christian chat rooms when the internet first started. And I'm on with a girl telling my story. And she tells me she belongs to a huge church in Plano, Dallas. And would I come over for 2 weeks and do like seminars for the kids over there? Big crack cocaine problem. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. And I came over here. And the minute I put my foot on American soil, I knew I'd never go back home again to me. And that's what happened.
Wow. That is a crazy story. Where are you at with your faith then? I mean, you must have so much faith in God now, right? Or, I mean, yeah, how do you feel about all that? Because obviously it sounds like you had nothing before that experience, and then that's the kind of experience that would, shape a man's trajectory forever, really. How do you feel about it now?
100% God. Don't go to church. Don't read the Bible. But there is a God and Jesus. And I perform his work. And that's what I do. I'm very close to him. My life is like you couldn't write my life. And it's humanly impossible to do what I did without God's help. So he guides me every day. It's amazing. I'm not a fanatic. I don't ram it down anyone's throat. Like I say, we don't go to church. It's me and him. It's amazing, and I believe so much because so many miraculous things have happened to me. When you're on TV with an audience of 12 million people, how many people get that opportunity? It's insane opportunity. So yeah, I definitely spirituality is top of my list every day.
Absolutely. Beyond that, obviously, you've gone on to do a lot of incredible things and you've helped a lot of people. And as you've mentioned, it's obviously not just faith, and that's not something that you're massively about. You're also massively about the science behind it too, and the understanding of why things happen and why these things take situation in our brains, and obviously how to remove yourself from those situations too. So some of the names I've seen, obviously neuroscience, neuroplasticity, that is obviously integrated into the addiction recovery methods. Just want to understand a little bit more about the brain's ability to change. How do you go about that then? So how do these things kind of help someone recover from the addiction or trauma? Just a little bit about how it comes to play in this kind of a thing and why it works the way it does would be great.
Well, we found out, now we spent over $1 million on research, tests, trials, so we make sure all our stats right. We're talking to Robb Kelly right now. We work for the government, the FBI, we work for most of the major movie stars over here, so we work now, musicians, stuff like that. So we knew something had to be done, and I truly believed that we could remold the brain. Now, when I came over here and transferred my license, the Texas licensing board stripped me of my license, and they said I was harming people. It was all gobbledygook. You can change your mind or change it. It's just rubbish. It took us 6 or 7 months to get it back. It's funny how I lectured to those guys today. That's by the by. And we set upon finding out what's really going on. So we knew. And about 10 years ago, the medical fraternity was jumping up and down, so excited because they realized or found out in research that the brain, you can actually alter neural pathways, and they called it neuroplasticity, where they can alter and change thought patterns. Well, we've been doing it for so long because of the horrific things I went to. I was kind of aggressive with this, to be honest with you, because I knew I was onto something. I just knew I was onto something. So we started our research, and some of the early stuff we used to do was NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, where you program the mind using subliminal messaging, which we're very big on today, subliminal work. And we use breathbox, which is 9D dimensional subliminal messaging with headphones to redivert. We change old patterns into new patterns. So we discovered that around 300 neural pathways die every single day. The question was to all of us is, what are we replacing them with? Well, most people replace them with negativity from the past because that's where they're living now. And they've got little hope that they can change and get your kids back, get a better job, become a millionaire. They don't believe they can do that. So they set in this pattern, and this is the subconscious brain that set to self-sabotage because we don't think we're worthy or we don't think we're good enough. So we reset using the photomodulation units, the 9-dimensional work, neuropsychology, somatic experience, NLP, all this stuff where we're changing the thought patterns every single time. It's a daily session you come in for, or online, most of it's online, where we change your thought patterns. And we look. So brain spotting is a bit like EDMR, if anyone's ever heard of that, but there's no flashing lights. And you're looking for the pupil flickering during this process. When the pupil flickers, because it's from the pupil straight into the subconscious brain, this technique, there's trauma. Now, most trauma sits in the subconscious, so you can't pull it to the conscious. Oh, yeah, you can't do that. Most of the stuff you have is not the trauma you're talking about. It's the stuff, the deep stuff that sits in the subconscious brain. So here's where we have a problem. The subconscious brain wakes us up every morning. And the reason why it wakes us up is because it loves hypoxic situations. So on a normal circadian sleep pattern between 2 and 5 o'clock in the morning is when most people, first of all, die of natural causes, but secondly, the body is at its lowest, which means very little oxygen. So when we wake up, it's the reason why nobody's woke up laughing, by the way, but when we wake up, the subconscious brain is there to run the day. We get up and we do our intensive breath work straight away and some other routines. And basically what that happens is it gets rid of the subconscious brain and it ignites the conscious brain. Subconscious brain only lasts 24 hours because it changes. So the next day, this guy's still going to wake me up. But the conscious brain is capable of doing anything in the world. But the conscious brain thrives on oxygen. We only breathe about 55% of our lung capacity. When people go to the gym or running and stuff, everyone thinks, oh, I've been to the gym. It's not the weight, it's not the running, it's this in between sets. Getting the oxygen and replenishing everything in our body takes you to a different conscious state. The subliminal work we do gets the vibration and the energy. So the frequency and vibration are very, very important, that we balance them out so we can hear crystal clear and also see things around us. But we have to change that behavior. Now, the behavior comes from learned behavior and a measurement, like mother can pass depression down to children, stuff like that. But the early work, we've got to look at the basal ganglia and the hypothalamus. So the basal ganglia is our repetition, strength, and confirms part of the brain. It's like when we drive a car, it's really hard. I might be in a Mini, but it feels like a bus. And I'm careful in case I'm doing 20 miles an hour. I think I'm doing 100. And as the weeks and months go by, we pass the test. We're driving for a few weeks. Now we can reverse down the driveway, speaking to the girlfriend, waving to mom and listening to music at the same time. The reason is because that learning part of the brain has gone around so many circles, it becomes a working part of the mind, which means you can do it rather than thinking. That's where the damage is done, because most of the basal ganglia of people with alcoholism and stuff is at default. So if you can imagine 12 o'clock, everything's going great. 10 after we relapse, 20 after, the wife takes us back, 1:30, the kids come back home at 22. We get a job offer, that's amazing. At 10 till we smash it all up again and we start again. That needs to be fixed. And the most interesting thing that we found is with the hypothalamus, with alcoholics. So the hypothalamus from birth tells a human being you need to eat food and drink water to survive. That's it. It's the survival part of the brain. It also monitors our temperature and stuff like that. At a certain point of the alcoholic's drinking career, we don't know when that is. It's different with every single person. The hypothalamus turns around, hijacks the brain, and tells the alcoholic to drink alcohol only to survive. That's why children, jobs, and wives are de minimis. The main big focus on mind with the hypothalamus is telling the prefrontal cortex, drink alcohol to survive. And that is why it's a disease. So with all this information is how we change from the normal pattern in self-sabotage. We get rid of the trauma, we get rid of the alcohol, drugs, whatever the depression, whatever it is, through techniques we just talked about, and we free you up into this new life that's permanent. So we have entrepreneurs that we built multi-million-dollar companies with. We have, actors, we have housewives, all these kind of people that come, and we guarantee the end. And every program's work around that person. And it always starts with childhood trauma, and it always ends in a full psychic mind change before we go on and live our life. Because we don't know how we are. We do not know our identity. Our identity is either our marriage, boyfriend, girlfriend, work, whatever. But when we come out of work or we get divorced, we're left with no identity. We don't really know who we are. And the idea of our program is to find out your identity so we realize how powerful you are and how powerful the mind is.
That is fantastic. Wow. I mean, I think this is absolutely incredible and an absolute game changer. Everything that you talk about there as well, just thinking about it too, a lot of it is based on us and our thinking and our brains and stuff too, but I can't help but figure out and feel that there's a massive issue in society of this too. Now, before we got on this podcast, I did a couple of things out of just pure curiosity. So I went through our home and I went and looked at the labels on the various forms of alcohol that are just kind of dotted around the house, a couple of cans, a couple of old glass bottles, things like that. I just had a look at the back out of just my own curiosity before this podcast. And I'd never really thought about it before, but looking at it all, what you have on the back of most of these bottles are recommendations for, X amount of units per week, not saying anything about, being alcohol free or addiction, anything, maybe a notice to go towards, drink aware to learn a bit more and stuff like that too. But then you've got something like I've got a picture here of the back of a packet of a paracetamol and codeine, which then says, this medicine contains codeine, which can cause addiction if you take it continuously for more than 3 days. If you take this medicine for headaches for more than 3 days, it can make them worse, blah, blah, blah. So there's clearly something wrong with society that is just ignoring the studies, ignoring the culture, the issues, the findings, the research, and the millions of people who are all suffering with this thing. So I've got to ask you then, number one, why is nothing being really done about this other than just recommendations and a bit of tapping into it here and there? And beyond that too, what stage do we need to get to where there's such an overwhelming amount of evidence and people's lives being destroyed and addiction just rampant everywhere that something actually gets done about this, to do a little bit more to make people aware and prevent some of these cases before they even begin?
Great question. I love that question. On thousands and thousands and thousands of podcasts that I've done, that's the best question anyone's ever asked me. There are solutions. You can be fully cured from any addiction. There's no cure for alcoholism, but we can arrest it. There's no cure for the common cold or food poisoning. We just fit some work before makes us, not touch that stuff. Same with alcohol. There's no money in recovery. Now, I've been here 20 years, so I can only speak about America right now. The food industry gets us sick, and the pharmaceutical companies keep us sick. So somebody who gets well is not good to anybody. They can't put you in treatment. They can't give you a pill. So you're forgotten completely. And that's why most diseases such as this have not been researched. There's no money over here. They was always trying to give you pill. Alcohol has so much tax on it, not so much Texas, but around America, that they daren't go into too much research over that. Because I can tell you, if alcohol was created today, they would ban the substance immediately, because it's a poison that goes into our body. So the research is out there, but the patterns remain the same. And that is, we want to change, but we don't want to change. We like our alcohol. The few of us might, suffer and lose their life, alcoholism, but it's not that bad. So we'll stick with the comfort zone of what we know. And that's the thought patterns of human beings, is we always go to what we know. It's learned behavior and measurement from parents or caregivers and teachers and stuff like that. It's like we stick in that pattern. So to go out there like we did and research it and find the answers, I think I got bad press from every single area of the medical fraternity and government, saying that this is some hocus pocus stuff, and yet we're changing thousands of lives every single year. So I think it's out there. I don't think we're the leading authority, and I'm bold enough to say that because of what I've been through, what we've been through as a company, and the studies and behavior and the results that we're finding. But we post most days on social media with the breath box, with the 9-dimensional breathing stuff that we do, but nobody takes it up. A, they don't believe it. B, I go to hospital once every 6 weeks. It's not that bad, am I drinking? So everyone's turned a blind eye to it, everyone thinks an alcoholic is somebody who drinks too much alcohol. Well, first of all, you can't drink yourself into becoming an alcoholic. So we have a serious mental condition going here, but it's still looked at as you're a weak man if you can't stop drinking. Nobody's gone into it because they're not getting paid for it. The research funds are not available for that. But let's open 50 more prisons over here and fund that. But we're not going to look at the crux of the matter, the root causes, which is the alcohol, drugs, the abuse, the childhood trauma, the depression. Nobody looks at that because you're not profitable to them.
Jesus Christ. It is really scary, actually, when you think about it. And it has been around for a long time, and I just can't see it ever really changing. Despite what people tell them, what we know. I think like everyone knows deep down, but we just get suckered into it. There's another thing on the streets now too, which I'm sure you've heard all about, and the studies around that too, vaping. Now, I just feel like everyone my age around here locally, in Somerset in the UK, everyone around my age is vaping. And it's been scary speaking to them because I'm someone who's a massive advocate for health and fitness. I'm a PT and stuff too. I know people who will literally take a vape with them when they go running and have to stop, and then, keep going on. And speaking to them too about it, quitting, they know that it's awful. They are like saying things along the lines of, oh yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? Oh yeah, I just can't stop. Oh yeah, got to go every 5 minutes. I got to leave the room or leave the table. All these things as well. So what do you think about that? How are they different? Is the recovery process kind of similar? is it just like, the same person in just a different, Scooby-Doo mask, that kind of addiction? What's going on with that as well? Does the stuff that you're doing help with that too? I really feel like this is something that is an absolute tsunami wave that's taking over young people right now. And we are going to be fixing a lot of young people in the next 10 years for sure as well with this problem.
Yeah, we do cover that, and 10% of our work is probably vaping, young kids vaping. It's a pattern. It's a destructive pattern that we get into. It's the same as taking heroin. It's the same as taking any destructive, addictive drugs, whether that be Percocet or heroin or vaping. The pattern is self-sabotaging behavior, and then it becomes an addiction in itself. If you think for a second that vaping is any different to smoking, you are wrong. There's so much damage being done, but every single corner shop around here is a vape shop. You never see anybody in them, but they must be making money from somewhere. So all these people, like you said, fitness people even, are coming in and just using it, thinking that it's amazing and it's not smoking and it don't do me no harm. And the harm it does is atrocious to the body and the mind, absolutely atrocious. But it's that addictive behavior. Most people need something that they're addicted to because of the childhood trauma. And addiction is not about, so vaping, that's really narrowed down. Vaping isn't about the stuff that they're inhaling, it's about power. So they have the power right there and then to take control of their body by vaping. And then that addictive personality of taking one's life back becomes paramount within the prefrontal cortex. And that's the pattern we face. Can everyone in the world stop vaping? Of course you can. Can you stop smoking? Of course you can. Can you fully be cured from that? Of course you can. What we've been told in the past about addiction and stuff like that is not true. It's not true, guys. Now, we're the leading authorities in neuroscience pertaining to this. So we know what we're talking about. It's when we can get you out of that self-sabotaging pattern and take you into another routine and pattern within the brain, then you'll get well and you don't need it. But it becomes a crutch. It becomes, we studied somebody with cigarettes, their morning and afternoon routine. And it started with a cigarette first thing. And then most people that give up smoking say, I didn't know what to do with my hands. So that becomes a habit again. Do you want to go outside for a smoke? Yeah. It becomes this crazy habit that you're in that you think is impossible to break. Again, that's not true. You can break these patterns, The vaping industry are never going to tell you. The medical fraternity is never going to tell you. The doctors have no idea about vaping, addiction, nothing like that. God bless them. The medical fraternity are baffled with this stuff. But you ask a normal doctor, you ask a normal patient, have you ever gone to the doctor for an ailment or illness? He's given you a tablet or a pill that you've taken that's cured the ailment so you don't have to take the pill ever again. Yeah, I didn't think so. And that's where we are now psychologically in life, is we're following these patterns because we think it's good for us and we think we can't stop. Neuroplasticity and quantum physics backs us in our statements that you can recover and cure all psych stuff apart from alcoholism. You can only arrest it. That's all we can do because of the hypothalamus. But yeah, and the more information, you see, they legalize marijuana, not in Texas, but around. I've got no problems with legalizing marijuana, but government, please tell the people what it actually does. What it does to the body, what it does to the mind. Why don't we release that information and then give the client or customer a choice whether they want to do it? But no, ding, 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 we can earn $10 trillion a year by selling marijuana ourselves. And that's where we go wrong. There's not enough information about smoking. There's not enough information about addiction or vaping or everything else that we do. It's all hidden and they don't want you to know about it.
That sums it up. If the problem truly is our thinking, not the drinking and the smoking and the eating, I've known people who've been very addicted to chocolate and stuff too, and things like this. So not as potently addictive as something like the cigarettes and the nicotine or the alcohol and stuff there, but still addictive nonetheless. Makes me wonder then, if it is truly our thinking, then can we wire our brain? If we can dewire it from addiction in that form, can we wire it to be addicted to positive things? So I imagine, now no affiliation here, whatever, just something I heard about a long time ago. I was aware of a product once that I think if you had like a win or you did something really good or found a positive, you kind of like squirted this like pheromone or smell thing up your nose, and then you could do that in the future and wire your brain almost to go into this kind of like hyper productive mode, just from the smell, essentially, because you've associated it with something. I'm curious then about what else you can do. So, I mean, if you have like a food or going to the gym or working out or something, if you make that the response to a situation or a negative thing or even a positive thing, are we able to become addicted to the things that are going to truly help us, that don't necessarily contain addictive substances? So how can we make the best of this kind of situation, really master our heads like that as well? I'd love to know what you think.
Yeah, so when the brain cures of addiction and recovered from alcoholism, the brain is always looking to replace, okay, whether that be sugar or food or whatever. So 100% you can rewire for success. That's what we do. The problem we have to watch is if, let's say you go to the gym, if you're going to the gym every day and working out and spending an hour there, not a problem. But if you're going on vacation abroad with your family and the first thing you do when you get there is look for the nearest gym, then you've got to look at it sensibly. Are you taking hours away from the family because we're on vacation here? So what look like healthy can become a bad addiction. Those guys will always relapse back to alcohol or drugs because that addiction hasn't stopped. It's just transferred to a different area. So once we change the neural pathways away from that self-sabotage behavior, it's like running. I got into running years ago. I've just lost 157 pounds. That became a nice addiction. But I used to run with my friends, and all of a sudden I put in for a marathon or half marathon, and I found myself running every single day. It was amazing. But then I found myself that I would skip work to run. If I couldn't fit it in, I'd skip a few hours at work. That becomes dangerous to the mind because the damage done as well, the isolation, the imposter syndrome, and it all branches from that psychological change to focusing on one thing, like the hypothalamus with alcohol. There's a big world out there, so balance becomes the key to everything that we do, everything. But you can be, that's what we do. We change self-sabotaging, alcohol, drugs, whatever, into positivity, build family, build money. And it's not hard to earn $1 million. And before somebody scoffs at the screen, it's not hard. It's 2025. It's not hard to earn $1 million if you start your own empire. It's not. It's staying sane while you do it and keeping balance while you do it. That's the key. Most people who want to earn money for the family, they go at it, bam, 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 and they burn out. You've got to look at, do you have a balanced life? And it starts, if we really go into it, it starts with the food. We did a live TV thing for Channel 4, which is Fox 4. And I took the camera crew into a supermarket, very well supermarket. And we went to that where all the health bars was. And what we found was the well-known brand was there. We picked it up, and the front of the package, it said 9 grams of protein and 0 fat. Brilliant. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy it for my family. When we turned the package around, it had 31 ingredients, starting with canola oil. So canola oil, all the rancid oils that we use, what happens is this, and this is very, very important to the body's health and addiction. If we take, canola oil, sunflower oil, all the seed oils that's been made, 9 out of 10 times the body can't methylate. So everything we eat is not eaten in the source that we put it in our mouth. It's methylated into the source that we can as a human being use. The problem is most of the stuff that we buy from the supermarket, we can't methylate. So if we can't methylate a certain protein or food, what happens is there becomes a deficiency in the body because we haven't methylated that. That deficiency causes the cancers, causes the addiction, causes the depression. So the food industry over here is probably 90% of food that you go into the store is killing us. And nobody's saying a thing. Why would they? Why would they? Because the big, when GMO started years and years ago, it was a tobacco company that went out of business or was going out of business that bought a huge food company. That's when they started using GMO and artificial colors and reds of this and blues and that to make it last longer. So we did an experiment. I was here for a week and I had to go home. So I bought McDonald's from here. So McDonald's fries over here has 27 ingredients in there. And McDonald's fries in England have 4. So we put the McDonald's in the cupboard. We went on the vacay to England. I bought a McDonald's, and for the 2 weeks we were there or something, I left it in the cupboard. And before we left, we looked at it. It was moldy. It was horrible. It was terrible. We just thought we couldn't eat it. We come back home after 3-4 weeks. We finally opened the cupboard in the kitchen. We took it out, and it was exactly the same as we'd left it.
Oh
The
my
bun had
God.
no mold in it. It was exactly the same. So what that tells us is obviously we're eating artificial food. But then we wanted to go a little step further. So we have a huge backyard or garden. So we put it down for I mean, you leave a apple on the floor, next day you come, it's been eaten, or the ants or something dragged it away. We put that full meal onto the floor, onto the cobbles, and we left it there for 3 days. Not one insect or animal or bird touched that stuff. They would not touch it. So what are we eating over here that's getting us sick? And the pharmaceutical companies keeps us sick. If you take this pill, you take this pill. Here's what happens here, okay? Woman comes in. Dr. Robb, I'm so depressed. Oh, okay. How long has this been going on? It's been going on for 3 years now. Oh my goodness. Are you taking any medication for it? Yeah, I'm taking Wellbutrin from the doctor. Brilliant. Okay. How long have you been taking that? Oh, about 3 years. When did you think it was going to kick in? Because you've been taking it 3 years and you're still depressed. Yet you're still taking this foreign body into you. And I don't understand why we keep doing this. We keep repeating the old behavior and expecting something different to happen. And it's just not going to happen because we're programmed into this way of living. Fast food, I want my food now. Then I don't want to wait 20 minutes to be cooked. I want it now. Then, and it's just absolutely killing us. Matt, there's a joke over here. When the medical fraternity is the 3rd leading cause in death in America, we have a problem. And when we look at most stuff that most people serve over here, then McDonald's becomes the biggest killer of human life ever.
Jesus. It's heavy. You know, something that I've always wondered as well, just something that I feel like is a great time to get out of my head and put into the world right now as well. I'd love to get your thoughts on this too. I'd love to just get it out there now. So I watched this video a while ago on Instagram, and it was this dude, and he I think his name is Shakan Parson on Instagram. He's like an athlete. I think he does stunt work and stuff. And I watched the guy, you know, run in front of the camera and did like a triple backflip twist thingy on grass, landed it, had like a sword in his hand and just flipping like superhero stuff. I'm not even joking, literal superhero stuff. And then my instant thought was just, whoa, like, oh my God, you know what? You can actually do that. And that is incredible. So I went into it a little bit further and I dug into human performance and people and high performance and things. And the one thing I truly came away from it was we are a platform. Like the body feels it's a platform. It's designed for being upgraded. It's designed for improvement. We can achieve anything. We can run the 2-hour marathon. We can do the long jump. We can go to space. We can lift, 300 kilos, 400 kilos in a deadlift. There's so many incredible things we can do. And we are like this platform that can be upgraded. But we're also at the same time held back by the simplest little things like addictions and these things which just kill that potential. I just want to know what you think about it, because we've got this machine that is ready for upgrading and evolution, and it's held back by something so simple, and it's our own brains, which I think is kind of poetic in a way. But do you feel like we're going to out-evolve addiction maybe, or alcoholism in the long-term future? What do you feel about when you look at it, when you look at someone do these incredible feats, and then you also work with people who are just struggling so hard with something that's just so simple and killing real potential too?
It goes back to what we've been taught as a kid. It goes back to the poverty. It goes back to the learned behavior. It goes back to all of those. Let's take the human body. The human body is not meant to sit down. But we sit down every single day for hours and hours and hours and hours. We're not meant to do that. How many times do we tell Granny when it's snowing, oh, stay in front of the fire, you know, don't you make sure you keep, we should be taking Granny out in the snow, because that's what we're meant for. We're protecting, the illness grows, the illness gets worse all of the time. It's like, look at Bannister. He was a runner. I don't know, I'm not sure, I think he was British, but he was the first guy to break the 4-minute mile. Then what happens after that is everybody, it became the norm. Everybody's breaking, you know, the 4-minute mile, and now we're doing 3-minute miles, and it's insane. It only takes one person to step forward, braving up and go, hey, have you seen what I can do? Have you seen how you do this? Because anybody is capable of anything in the world. Now, when I first came to America, the first thing an American would snap back at me when I told them that is all of them would say, well, I can't be president of the United States. That's what they always used to say, trying to prove me wrong. Now, let's forget. A few years ago, we had a freaking business of running the country with no political experience whatsoever. I've just got a restaurant next door to my office, a British restaurant, with no experience whatsoever. So if you think you can't achieve something, then somebody's put that there. So when we were kids, we used to kick a ball around the street, you know, on the council's day. Hey, Jimmy, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a doctor. What about you, Billy? An actor. What about you, Pete? I want to be a soccer player, a football player. What happened to them dreams? I'll tell you, they were kicked out of us by our family and friends. As humans today, we are not validating our winners. We're not validating properly the guys that are pushing boundaries, the guys that are changing things. If you look in the past, take America, for instance, you know, men used to build big and strong buildings, astronomical feats. You know, we went to the moon, if you believe that. But, you know, we did all these amazing things. And today, you know, we're sat in cry rooms because somebody said, you know, I want to be a woman, you call me a man. What's happened to the world, man? We've become weak. We're sitting down. We're waiting for things to happen for us instead of making things happen in the public and in humanity itself. You've got to understand, Gareth, that nobody's coming knocking at the door for you. Nobody's going to knock at the door and give you $1 million and a girl of your dreams. Nobody's doing it. We're on our own. So we need to get our backside up from that comfort zone and start making something of ourselves, whether it be complimenting people, doing something different that day that helps another human being. That feeds the soul. It feeds the conscious brain, the hypothalamus, of saying out there, look at me, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. Get that job, date that girl, start that empire, but do it now. Don't wait. We're not owed anything, guys. If you're not lifting or you're not moving around for at least 30 minutes a day, you will die 10 to 20 years younger than you should. It's been medically proved. You have to be moving, you have to be lifting every day, whether that's just a little couple of dumbbells, it makes no difference, because as we age, I mean, look at me. I'm 64 years old. I'm not supposed to look like this at 64. Says who? We've got to start asking, says who? Well, I mean, Jim, you can't. Says who? Who's making these rules up? Because I don't like these rules. So I'm going to start making my own rules up. And a bunch of people will follow me. Yeah. You know, and we just have to look at before what used to be and today what we used to be. Yeah. And I think the tide is changing. I think, you know, men and women are realizing that there's feats out there that they can do. Because you know what I would hate, Louis? I would hate to be 80 years old and look back to when I was 40 and realize there was no one watching anyway, and you really could have done anything you wanted to do. Can you imagine doing that? It would be soul-breaking, heartbreaking. And I never want anyone to do that. This is the day. Oh, look at them. Look at them, Rob. Oh, God, those were the days, weren't they? What if today's one of those days? Because we surely didn't know it off that photograph 20 years ago that they were the days. We didn't stop on that photograph and go, do you know something? It's a great day. We're living the dream. We never do that. What if today's one of those days where you can change the world? And if you don't believe that's possible, guys, next time you're out in a public area, I want to say 2 words to somebody, okay? This is how you're going to change the world. Look out for sneakers, training shoes, a nice pair. When they walk towards you, just go, hey, nice sneakers. Or, hey, nice training shoes. That's all, okay? He's going to say, oh, thank you, man. As you walk past the turn around and watch, he's going to look down at his training shoes at least 2 or 3 times. Now you've changed his mood. He goes on to the wife or girlfriend. He's in a good mood. Now she's in a good mood. Then the mother-in-law cut, and you get the gist. You've just changed the world, man. And whether you believe in God or the universe or Uncle Jimmy, you'll get paid back for that. And that's how we start to come out of our shell. Everybody out there is a leader. Everybody out there can do anything they want to do. Stop believing the false comments out there that I'm not supposed to go to college. I'm not supposed to build $1 million businesses. I'm not. It's like, says who? Challenge yourself. So tomorrow morning, whenever you hear this, this is what I want you to do. This is going to change your life forever. When you get up in the morning, subconscious brain wakes us up. We talked about that. I want you to sit on the bed, and you've got to do this, guys. I want you to take 20 exaggerated breaths in and out. You know, that crazy move. Do 20 of those. When the dizziness goes, if you're not going dizzy, you're not done problem. When the dizziness goes away, to walk into the bathroom, stand 6 feet away and say, I love you 10 times. I love you. I'm looking at yourself. Don't go near the mirror, because when we go near doing the shave and we try to do the I love yous, we see all our blemishes. That's not how people see us. So we think people see. When's the last time you met in the office? Hey, Jimmy, good. We don't do that. But when you stand 6 feet away, the blemishes disappear. And then I want you to get your toothbrush. And if you're right-handed, brush a week on the left, week on the right, week on the left, week on the right. If that doesn't change your life, you haven't followed direction.
I really like you, Dr. Kelly. Your energy, it speaks to me. You are exactly the kind of person I would want to work with. And, you know, if I was in a bad way, I would be reaching out to you right now. I'd be looking to work with you. I feel like this is probably a good place to round some of this off and start to go into kind of like where we can do a bit of work with you as well. I mean, I would have asked a little bit about, you know, where people can start on the recovery process and stuff too, but I feel like you answered that there too. Like, what's something that people can take away from this podcast, and then if they're in a bad place right now, what can they go with? And I think you just answered that perfectly right there. Go and do that, and everything else that we spoke about just now too. You know, we got into the details and the sciences and the depth of all of it too, but I think the simple stuff done well is where it's at. You know, just the stuff that you already know. Eating good, treating yourself well, speaking positively, being kind to yourself, what goes in your ears, what goes in your mouth, all of that, what you see, what you look at, and just keeping yourself fit and healthy. I think that's the most important stuff too. But if you have anything else to add to that, please do. But in terms of the business and the therapy and the recovery process and stuff too, if we go into that shameless plug now, can you just take a few minutes to kind of direct us into where to begin with this too? If someone feels so lost right now that they don't feel like they can do this themselves, like you said, you know, before you had that just miracle happen, maybe they won't have that miracle happen, but maybe this podcast is that miracle for them and they're going to go and find you now from it. So where can they do that? What do we need to know? What can we expect from it, please?
But whether you're suffering from addiction, alcoholism, depression, you want to build a business, you want to change your mindset, you want to come out the anxious and all that stuff, we can do that for you. If you're listening and not watching, I spell my name with 2 B's, so it's ROBBKELLY.com. On there, you'll find all sorts of amazing things. Dr. Robb Kelly on all social media platforms. Come find us, come like us. I will promise you this, okay? If you come on and want your life to change, and we do our first session, and your life doesn't change, and you don't leave my session going, oh my God, yes. If you don't do that, I'll refund that money for you. We can change you. We can change your loved ones. We can change your parents, your sons, your daughters. We can change. We're the leading authority, and we're proud to say that. So take advantage. Come and find us. If you go on the website, there's actually a button you can press that comes direct to my cell phone. So if you need help, we're here. 98 to 99% success rate. And we'll change you. You know, a few simple rules going forward. Okay? Stop giving a shit what people think about you and watch your internal dialogue. What our internal, drop a pen on the floor. Oh, you idiot. Stop that, guys. Because you're telling your brain you're an idiot. And that'll sit in the subconscious brain. Okay? And stop caring what people think about you. It's none of their business what they think about you. Go proud, go large, stick your chest out, girls and guys. Stick your head up high, girls and guys. And go out there tomorrow and kill it. Kill that word. I'll leave with this. My grandfather once said to me that you have to work that hard so you don't have to introduce yourself.
I think
I got that today. You know, what a great place to be.
Absolutely. Dr. Kelly, if you had a minute to speak to a young Rob, 12, 13 years old, maybe before 10, 9, I don't know, just around that age, but let's say between 9 and 12, just so you had that minute just to whisper in the ear of you a long time ago, before you did all of this stuff and before all the hardships and before it all kicked off, and then obviously found full circle. What would you put into a nutshell, like we did at the beginning almost, to a young version of you and before all of it, and knowing what's going to happen, but also where you're going to end up?
I would say to me, stop overthinking things. Stop worrying about stuff that doesn't matter, like jealousy, the wasted emotion, all that stuff. It will be okay. This is where we do the inner child work. And whatever happens in your life, we're going to make a success of it. Then you're an amazing guy, and you always will be.
One more thing. Would you change anything? You had a tough time. Would you change any of that, knowing where it would end up and going through it all?
You know, a couple of 5, 6 years ago, it would be a different answer today. I say no today, and I'll tell you why I say no. Everything's happened for a reason, and give me the tools to work with the people I do, first of all. Secondly, 4 years ago, after 30 years of estrangement, my eldest daughter messaged me on Facebook, and she said, I've seen you on TV. It's about time we met. It's been too long. I don't believe what Mom was telling me. And I read that to my wife. Within 3 hours, we're on a plane back to England. We stayed in a hotel next door, or a few doors away. We came out in the morning, going round to her house. The first time I've seen her in 30 years. Oh my God, I'm wasting time. I'm useless. And this. We get to the door. Louis, I couldn't not. I was crying. I was shaking. And she opened the door. She hugged me. We cried and laughed together for what I thought was an hour, but it was probably 2 minutes. Then she took me by my hand, and she led me into her front room. And she handed me my 3-month-old granddaughter. So the answer is definitely no. What I've been through benefits other people. And everything, 6 weeks ago, my youngest daughter got in contact with me. Everything comes full circle. You just got to be patient. That's all.
Dr. Kelly, I'm incredibly appreciative for your time today, but also just want to say, I speak to a lot of people in the service, a lot of people in the military who serve their country, and I truly believe that service doesn't have to be just in the military. I believe service can be done, and service is something to humanity. I believe that you do that, so I'd like to say, as I say to those people too, thank you for your service to people around the world and everyone who has benefited from this chat, but also just your services too, and the people you've helped. I truly believe it's a remarkable thing that you're doing. You will never run out of people who are going to need your help, and I truly believe that you're doing a justice to society and the world. We need more like you, but for now, you're enough. And I just want to say thanks so much for doing this podcast today. Honestly, beyond a pleasure. Very honored. Thank you.
Thank you so much indeed.
It's been fantastic. Guys, thank you for listening. This was episode 162. If you'd like to listen to the past episodes, go and have a look at our channel. If you'd like to listen in for the future ones as well, make sure to hit that subscribe button and spread some love by leaving a like and a comment. Signing off for now. See you in the next one. Cheers.